Turning now to Canada's trade troubles, two senior cabinet ministers, Anita Anand and Francois-Philippe Champagne, are in Mexico right now in hopes of strengthening ties. The trip comes just days after President Trump announced that he'd reached a deal with Mexico to extend an existing trade agreement for another 90 days. Joining me now is Peter MacKay, former Foreign Affairs Minister. Good morning, Peter. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning to you, Marcia. Good to be with you.
So we are already trading partners under CUSMA. What more could be done to increase bilateral trade between Canada and Mexico?
Well, as it currently sits, Marcia, we do about $56 billion annually in trade with Mexico, but that's only about 1% of what Canada sends into their economy. So there are specific sectors, the tech sector, for example, certainly other agriculture products and things right now that we're not currently trading. And so having two senior ministers there to talk is always a good idea. Now, granted, these are not ministers who are directly involved with the ongoing tariff and trade dispute with the United States, but perhaps we can also learn something from their approach. They took a much more measured and perhaps low-key approach, and it seemed to work for them. As you said, they just had their tariff-free trade extended by another 90 days.
Well, that was going to be my next question for you. Mexico received this reprieve from Trump. Canada clearly did not. So why do you think Trump is approaching Mexico differently? What are they doing that Canada isn't doing or should be doing?
Well, as we know, Marcia, he takes a very personal approach. And I think, frankly, my opinion, the elbows up, dollar for dollar tariff retaliation, granted, all that happened during an election and it didn't work. It frankly backfired the same way that it did for China. And they are also on the outside looking in. So perhaps a little more subtlety and behind the scenes work to try to alleviate some of these other outstanding issues, some of which are simply not true around fentanyl and border problems. But nevertheless, the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, has effectively maneuvered around some of the difficulties that Canada and our Prime Minister Mark Carney have experienced. So there is obviously lessons to be learned.
As you point out, these are not ministers directly involved with trade, but I'm wondering if over the next 48 hours, relationships could be built that would help perhaps in a precursor to CUSMA negotiations or renegotiations.
Oh, absolutely. Building relations is always a good idea. And having said that, we really don't send as much to Mexico as we could and as we should, given our proximity. It makes far more sense when we talk about diversification, yes, to Europe, the Asia Pacific, certainly the UK. But here we are, sitting on the top half of North America, Mexico on the bottom half. We have tremendous opportunity if we can get it there. Energy becomes a big question because we'd have to transit it through the United States or ship it there. And so our own infrastructure limitations, again, come into play. But having open and obviously cordial, productive relationships with a country like Mexico with a growing economy, that makes perfect sense.
Might tick off President Trump.
Well, it may. And, as we've seen in the past, he does have this mercurial personality when he thinks somebody has disrespected him or talked tough and then not backed it up. We certainly saw that with the previous prime minister. We're hearing, from Dominic LeBlanc that Prime Minister Carney has scheduled phone calls coming up. His last phone call wasn't returned. So time will tell, but also, time is ticking. We're past that artificial deadline of August 1st that was set, and now it really has to be a full court press. But I would suggest a more quiet and tempered approach behind the scenes, the type of work that I think Dominic LeBlanc is doing.
Peter MacKay is a former Foreign Affairs Minister. Thanks so much for your time with us this morning.